Brett, thanks. President Trump addressing the nation after the United States carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, now en route to New York, where the two will face drug trafficking charges in the United States. Welcome to Fox News Live. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. Big day of news here. For more, let's bring in Hudson Institute Senior Fellow Rebecca Heinrichs and former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Great to have you both. So the headline of the United States going to run the government until they can make a proper transition. Rebecca, what's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I think my big takeaway coming out of that conference is that the United States is highly competent. I mean, if there was a huge theme, it was competency, military competency across military services conducting the stealth operation. The Venezuelan government, as Marco Rubio pointed out, is really being run by Cubans, which is an interesting fact. They were not able to push the United States out, and they're using Russian equipment. The Russians have been arming the Venezuelan government, barely pushed the United States out. Also, another thing to note is that the Chinese delegation just was in Venezuela supporting Maduro. They seem to not even have a clue. So talk about incompetency. They didn't have a clue about the pending U.S. military operation. So really showcasing strong U.S. military competency against our adversaries, not just Venezuela, but China and Russia. On the occupation point, if anybody says they totally understand President Trump and his foreign policy, they're not being totally honest. There's always surprises. He's a very non-ideological president. He cares about competency. And so I think that is another big surprise coming out of this press conference is he does want the United States to have a heavy hand in ensuring that there's a transition government that serves the interests of the American people and doesn't just simply collapse into chaos.
Now, President Trump said he had spoken with Maduro about a week ago, clearly signaling that it was time to go. Any surprise about the timing of this and your reaction to the operation?
Well, firstly, I would say this is a great day actually for American leadership on the world stage. It's a tremendous example of American exceptionalism. As the president said in the press conference, no other nation in the world could actually carry out what the United States has done today. And this is a huge, immense success. And it's also sending a very clear message to America's adversaries across the world. They are on notice. And I think that this is a very clear signal that really underscores the fact that the United States is the undisputed, unquestionable world leader today. And President Trump has demonstrated tremendous strength and power. In terms of the timing of this, I don't think it's a surprise. Maduro was given every opportunity actually to back down and surrender. But being the arrogant narco-dictator that he was, Maduro, of course, did not heed the warnings, and he paid the price. This is a warning, of course, to other enemies of the United States as well. Colombia, Cuba, for example, as the president mentioned.
Let's pick up on that, Rebecca. You had the Cuban-American Secretary of State basically issuing a warning to the leadership in Havana. What about those other regimes?
Oh, I think that they are clearly on notice. It's not so veiled threat being issued here at this press conference. The other thing that I can't help but notice is that anytime there is a massive sort of demonstration of military competency where President Trump is executing a plan that works flawlessly, Marco Rubio is right there, and he's right there explaining all the intricacies of it. Clearly, he was there today doing that as well. And he also made the point that, back in July, Marco Rubio told everybody that Maduro was not the legitimate president of Venezuela. He's a criminal wanted for sending drugs into the United States. And then he made that point again today. So this was, he made the point, a Department of Justice operation supported by the Department of War. And then, of course, he said these other countries, including Cuba and Mexico, you better be on notice that we're not going to tolerate drugs being flowed into the United States.
Now, we're almost out of time, but what about the precision of the military and intelligence to pull off this mission with minimal damage to an aircraft?
An absolutely monumental success, actually. And if you compare President Trump's leadership of the U.S. military to that of weak-kneed, useless Joe Biden, it's night and day, isn't it? And what we see today is an absolutely perfect U.S. military operation. No other nation in the world could carry off what the United States achieved today. And this is a moment of tremendous courage, bravery, leadership, and what an audacious operation, actually. A high-risk operation, but a massively successful operation. A great credit to the President of the United States and to the American military.
Niall, Rebecca, great to have you today. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.